Just thought I'd start off with a quick update on the busiest shipping channel in the world, or at least one of the busiest shipping channels in the world. It's a wonder any ship could move through this area here without having the risk of running into another one. I mean, all of these ships are just too much to keep track of. Lest anyone think I have deleted anything. Here is over here. And of course, over here. So, anyway, just something we covered a long time ago, ad nauseum as well, when I was looking into the idea that perhaps the USS Fitzgerald had been the victim of a new form of limited mine warfare, EMP based, where we have even shown articles where they've designed these mines that they can sit on the bottom, virtually no power signature whatsoever, passively scanning above it for certain signatures, and when it sees the targeted signature, it activates itself, floats to the top, right into the target vessel, and goes off. And it wouldn't have to be one of these things we see on YouTube where the giant explosion occurs and the ship lifts and cracks. And all you'd need to do, especially with one of these very high-tech $2 billion warships that has issues with the Aegis anyway, get up there and give it a good zap. You may not disable it, but you take a ship like this and you take it off its mission. You know, I was considering that as well. What if, and I'm just going to ask my audience here, since you guys are the best on YouTube, I'm going to probably get the best response on this. What if this wasn't necessarily an attack that had the desired outcome of sinking the ship? What if it was a trial run? What if it was something where they're like, let's see if this mine will do what we want it to do. And they put the thing out there and just waited for the first U.S. Navy vessel to stray into the wrong region. The thing activates, floats up, zaps it, and then all of a sudden they can't get radar tracks on this, that, and the other. And the issue with the crew of the ACX Crystal might have been one of those like, wow, seems like it's working. I wonder if we could do this, phase 2. I wonder if we can make phase 2 work here. And so that's when the ACX Crystal made their turn and moved toward the vessel and only had to make one small adjustment and smacked right into it. I mean, sometimes we can get in the trap of thinking it's either or. You know, either it's some giant conspiracy, you know, where there's absolutely no way the Navy can combat this and we're in a huge amount of trouble, or it's a complete fallacy. Somewhere it's in between. That's almost always the case. It's always somewhere in between those two. So anyway, just wanted to cover a couple of things, and dovetailing with that, this happened back in October, very shortly after the issue with the McCain, well, a couple months anyway, but this had already been in the works. This is something that a lot of folks in Western nations can't really wrap their mind around, about how mine warfare is a very prevalent tactic in Asian navies. The Malaysians have a huge arsenal of mines. So do the Vietnamese and North Koreans, even the South Koreans, Chinese, all of them take this into consideration. It's because of where they live and how their navies operate versus ours. We used to do mine warfare, but I can't even remember. World War II, there was some talk of submarines, German submarines off our coasts, but we've never had to mine our harbors defensively in this nation. But over there, war after war after war after war, it's just part of who they are. But when this article came out about them not upgrading to baseline 9, I know some will say, well, that's just a cost-saving measure because these two accidents didn't really factor into their budget. If you're going to have the thing in there anyway, and you're going to be upgrading the ship and it's going to be down for a year and you're going to lose that time, why not? Why not? I mean, unless they just know that this system is so heavily compromised that it would just be a waste of time, a waste of money, because it's going to be useless if attacked. So they have to upgrade it to the point where it can still do its anti-ballistic missile mission, but the baseline 9 actually gives it the ability to engage aircraft as well, traditionally. So, I just think this is curious that they wouldn't do this. The level of the damage to the Fitzgerald is night and day between that and the McCain. And you can see this in contrast as well with the issue with the Porter. Now, the Antietam ran aground, the Lake Champlain hit something that it didn't even matter, at least to the ship. I mean, of course it mattered because they believe there were lives lost aboard the fishing vessel, but and the Antietam, I believe, had to be cut apart into pieces to get off that reef. But once again, here we go. A ship that didn't know where it was. A ship with electronics aboard that should have been able to tell it within feet where it was. All in the same region, all suffering the same problem, all on the exact same mission. I don't know how you talk about fatigue in that sense. One of my contributors had mentioned too that had gone back to some of my videos, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much for going back and reviewing old information. And you can see it clearly here. There are 2 rudders on an Arleigh Burke class destroyer. 2 rudders and 2 screws and 2 power plants. Both can operate independently, or they can be slaved together, and either one independently or together can move the ship around. A total steering failure, almost impossible. To lose all steering. That's just not in the realm of believability. That you could lose total steering for such a long time, then also not be aware of it, which was the allegation aboard the McCain, that they didn't know they were in a left-hand turn when they were turning left 4 degrees. It's silly. I just wanted to show this picture. And this one was the, yeah. You know, I made this allegation too, and I was shot down because of it, but I'm going to say it again. The USS Cole bombing, that hole in the side of the Cole was 40 by 60. It was huge. The hole in this one is 13 by 17. But they're saying more damage to the ship that got the 13 by 17 hole than the one that had the 40 by 60 hole that killed 18 sailors, 33 injured, something like that. Someone help me out there with the stats on the Cole. It's beyond. It's just ridiculous what they're trying to get us to believe in this. The McCain didn't nearly have the problems with listing, didn't have the problem with staying underway. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe some of you Navy guys can help me out here, this is where the tubes are for the missiles. If this is where they probably would have to be, I guess, because they couldn't be anywhere up here or back here. This is the helicopter deck. And this thing hit pretty much right on there. And you would have thought if there was going to be some kind of an electronics failure or problem, giant amounts of water rushing into this region would have been a hell of a lot more destructive than, say, up here. But according to the Fitzgerald, the story of the Fitzgerald, the inrushing water knocked out all external communications immediately. Even reporting that, I tell you what, it would be something where every Navy in the world would look up and go, hey, wait a minute. And then this happened as well, somehow. So this is I don't know whether they weren't handling the ship properly or whatever, but when you look at this and you step back, and everybody, and I'm sorry, I know I'm going over old things here, but it just doesn't even make sense from a general logic's point of view. You have one small area, Asia. You have one kind of ship on one kind of mission. And just so coincidentally, at the exact same time this was happening, the one country in the world that is launching ICBMs and testing nuclear weapons happens to be doing so at an incredibly fast rate. Right next to one of our allies. And this just so happened, nothing's happened since. If this was a systemic issue that had been going on for a long time, where are the 2015 incidents? Where are the 2014 incidents? Where are the 2013 incidents that show this? You don't see it. You saw this during one very specific time, in one region, against one ship. Style of ship. We had been sailing these things close to the Chinese, those man-made islands. It might not be a North Korean or Chinese issue. I mean, sometimes the enemy of my enemy. But there's a picture on one of these links, and I should have been better prepared here, but we covered that. there is a picture on one of these, and I'm going to find it. It shows the coal. And I tell you what, USNI is really a great place to go. Here it is. Now, there's the coal, the size of that hole from the bomb that hit at the port of Yemen. This was a bomb that went off. And this thing had to make it from where it was in the port all the way out to the heavy lift ship. That heavy lift ship didn't go up next to the port and load this thing. This thing had to be taken out there. Where's all of the patches for stability? Where's all the giant steel, metal, underwater welding teams that would have had to have done this? See, and that's the other thing that stinks about the Fitzgerald, that I don't think we saw with the McCain. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody can correct me on that. But when the Fitzgerald went under its own power from the point the accident happened, with the assistance of two tugs, one for power makeup on one side, one for guidance in front, all the way back 50-something miles at a slow speed so it didn't take on excess of water, and made it there. And it stayed there portside. And then they sent in, and they didn't announce, they detailed everything else. See, this is the thing, guys. That Navy Admiral O'Coin came out and was next day giving detail after detail after detail of what happened, how it happened, and never once mentioned that they had divers on this mission to put on these giant patches. Never even got brought up. It was only the day before, 2 days before, that they were going to move this over to dry dock, that they had announced, oh yeah, by the way, over the last month or so, we have had underwater welding teams putting patches on it for stability to move it from one side of the port to the other. And, people came and said, oh, secret underwater welding teams. It's like, yeah, it was. Why would you bother? Why wouldn't you just take it to the dry dock, drain it out, and then put the patches on? It seems like that would have been a lot less underwater welding versus non-underwater welding are entirely different operations. And you would have been able to make a much better assessment if you would have taken this thing to the dry dock, drained it out, and you could have seen it in the light of day. The hole on the Fitzgerald never saw the light of day. It was covered by patches before anyone ever saw it. And I think we all know why. Because we can analyze that ad nauseum, that, I've always said this, the damage above the water line to the Fitzgerald, very consistent with what we saw from the Crystal. But the damage below the water line, you can talk about angles and listing and baloney. Sorry. No, and also, now we know that the Fitzgerald was in a hard port turn. Explain how that damage happens that way when it's hitting a ship in a hard port turn. Under that level of power. They would have had to have been turning into it. Literally trying to turn in front of it to be hit. And even then, I don't think you would see a nice, round, 13-foot puncture hole. And yeah, it was 13 by 17, and they called it a crack, but looking at the size of that, and we saw a picture of the bulbous bow right after it happened. It wasn't 30 feet down. It wasn't anywhere near 30 feet down where that hit. So anyway, I know I've gone on too long about this. We're pushing 15 minutes. So anyway, just wanted to cover these issues and show once again, and this is about not proving that the Navy is lying for the sake of us proving a conspiracy theory. We're back here, we're talking about this because they're talking about going after junior sailors for not doing their duty, and that's never going to fly. No way. It's about the sailors. It always will be about the sailors and those young men who gave their lives unnecessarily. This all could have been prevented. And they are not doing any service to their deaths or to future sailors that may be at risk by lying about this and purporting the lie. Stand up, do the right thing, say it was an attack, say you were unprepared, and then tell us how you're going to fix that in the future. So, anyway, thank you everyone for the support. I really appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thank you.